So we have been using this technique or technology for last 20 years, at least in my case, last 20 years. Not necessarily for cooking, making the materials. Last 20, 25 years, I am using this. Extensively used in my research. Microwave synthesis is a green synthesis. Rationalize. What comes to your mind when I say this? How you can rationalize this green synthesis is a microwave synthesis is a green process. Many domestics, industries, hotels, McDonald's, KFC, they all make use of this technique or equipment, microwave. So when I say microwave synthesis is a green synthesis, we try to adopt all the 12 principles last class we have seen. What are they? Atom economy, efficacy, less time consumption, less energy consumption, natural feedstock, no derivatization, no byproducts, clean process, all those things. Many of them green synthesis aspects are already integrated in this technique, microwave synthesis. What else comes to your mind? It involves a synthesis of something or fabrication of something. Now we are studying about nanomaterials, fabrication of nanomaterials using microwaves. Using microwaves, and we know that it is a part of EMR. Microwave is a part of EMR, electromagnetic radiation. It lies between the infrared and radio waves. Microwaves lie between the infrared and radio waves or TV waves. And here is the spectrum of electromagnetic radiation consisting of the range of waves or radiations. Okay, gamma rays, X-rays, UV rays, visible, infrared, microwave, TV, radio waves, etc. And in between we have visible light, very, very narrow. It ranges from 380 nanometer to 780 nanometers, or 400 nanometer to 700 or 800 nanometers. Visible light. And they are VABGYOR, VABGYOR. Red being the longest wavelength, violet being the shortest wavelength, red being the low energy, violet being the high energy. Apart from this, or within the electromagnetic radiation, this visible light is present, and you see that the range of other waves are gamma rays, X-rays, UV, infrared, microwave. They all have their own applications or features. Gamma rays are radioactive waves. They are generated from the radioactivity. When a radioactivity element undergoes decay, nuclear radioactivity, it emits gamma rays. High energetic, and it is termed as a ionizing radiation. High energies, gamma rays. It can even damage the DNAs of the cells, human cells. Whereas TV waves, radio waves, they are less energetic, and they are termed as non-ionizing. When I say non-ionizing, when we illuminate gamma rays onto any material, any substances, for example, metals or element, it even ionizes the element. And it even removes the electron from the shells, and metal may become metal ion. Ionizing is possible with the high energetic gamma rays, and they are being generated from the radioactive sources, radioactivity. Whenever nuclear explosion or nuclear activity occurs, these radiations are generated, and it is very dangerous to be exposed to such radiations. We know. Then X-rays, little lesser energy compared to gamma rays, and it can be generated. It can be generated. So when a core electron is excited to the excited core electron of a element is excited to the higher energy, when it returns, a characteristic X-ray is generated. In fact, you know that X-rays are also known as Röntgen rays. William Röntgen, who invented these X-rays, high energetic compared to UV visible infrared microwave. Compared to gamma, it is less energetic. And we know this has been extensively used in medical diagnosis, fracture or diagnosis, etc. It is not affect to the human bones. It will show the territory of the bones. Okay, medically very much used. Spotting can be done. Okay, so then comes ultraviolet. Wherever you have your arc discharge or glowing, or some natural events are also associated with the emission of this ultraviolet. Compared to visible, they are high energy. Compared to X-ray gamma, it is less energy. They are also danger. They also cause damage to the DNAs. Okay. In the RO system, such lights are used. In the reverse osmosis, water purifier, there is a UV lamp. It emits the UV light, which are dangerous to the germs they are present in the water. Then visible light, there are many uses of visible light. Infrared, very much used in deduction. Up to this radiation, visibility is over. Beyond that, it is not possible to feel it. Usually, we cannot see it. Visibility vanished. But their wavelength, and they can be used as a detector. Using infrared radiation, detection can be there. Thieves or 24/7 monitoring of security surveillance can be done using this infrared spectroscopy, infrared radiations. Of course, infrared radiation is very much used in spectroscopy, IR spectroscopy, simply known as IR spectroscopy. Fourier transformed infrared spectroscopy, a very fascinating tool to characterize the materials. Okay, and there are infrared radiation lights, very high temperature from the light can be generated. Just eliminate it, the substance can be evaporated. Some substance can be evaporated. Can be done by this infrared light lamps. Then comes the microwaves, and we have microwave oven. And we know that microwave can also be used in flight navigation and communication systems. Okay, so radio waves, no wonder that all the transmissions, AM, FM, and of course TV waves, they are used for transmission of the data, transmission of the information, whatnot. Okay, so each radiation, they have their specific sources from which they can be generated, and they have the specific feature, either ionizing, non-ionizing, opaque, non-opaque, etc. They have their own uses, applications. And any radiation can be characterized by several terminologies. Since this is electromagnetic radiation, it can be characterized by several terminologies. Energy, E is equal to h nu, where h is Planck's constant, mu is frequency. Or energy E is equal to hc by lambda, where h is a Planck's constant, c is velocity of light, and lambda is wavelength. There is another version of this Planck equation, E equal to h nu, E equal to hc by lambda, E is equal to hc nu bar, where nu bar is wave number. Nu bar is a wave number. So lambda is a wavelength, mu is a frequency, and nu bar is a wave number. So you can use any, and E is a energy. You can make use of any of these terminologies to quantify or to understand or to know what electromagnetic radiation you are dealing with. So for simplicity, depending on the type of the radiation, any one of these are used. Maybe in the case of uh, so gamma rays, wavelengths are used, or up to maybe ultraviolet. Beyond that, maybe wave numbers are used. Okay, definitely microwave, infrared, and microwaves, my wave numbers are used because E is inversely proportional to wavelength. Lower the wavelength, higher the energy. So these TV waves and radio waves, they have a very long wavelength, and whereas gamma rays, they have a very short wavelength, and the energy is opposite. So depending on the type of the wavelength, either wavelength, energy, frequency, wave numbers are used. Yeah, here there. Here are the magnitudes. So this is the wavelength in meters. Maybe radio waves you can tell in meters, but would you like to tell 10 power minus 10 meters of X-rays? No, we tell in wave number, nanometers, or wavelength, nanometers. Or in terms of frequency, wavelength frequency mu is equal to 1 by lambda. Okay, hertz, second inverse per second is the hertz, invented by a Bonn University professor, German, hertz. Okay, so if you know wavelength, it is possible to get the frequency and vice versa, energy, etc. The important is when you eliminate these radiations into any substance, what it can cause is the important. When you eliminate X-rays and UV rays, it can even lift the electron from the core shells. Okay, so the electron present in this core shell can be lifted, then vacancy is created, then the electron from the upper level can fall, it can emit some radiations. This lifting of electron can be done by this the job can be done by X-rays. Similarly, UV, ultraviolet also little it can extend, but heavy elements cannot be possible to lift the electrons. Okay, gamma rays, if you beyond the X-rays, gamma rays, high energetic, it can even excite the nucleus. Here electronic transition can take place, but there nuclear transition can take place. That's why we have got NQR, NMR, etc. NQR, nuclear quadrupole resonance spectrum. Nucleus itself can be excited and you can study the features. Here the electrons. Similarly, when you eliminate infrared radiation, it can induce molecular vibrations on the molecules. Vibrations on the molecule. It can induce the vibrations of a molecule when molecules are irradiated with infrared radiations. Similarly, when you eliminate microwave radiations, it can induce rotations of a molecule, And we know that molecules have 3 degrees of freedom. Any molecule has 3 degrees of freedom. What are they? Anyone can complete? 3 degrees of freedom possible for any molecule. What are they? Translational degrees of freedom or movement or mobility. It can translate in x-axis, it can translate in y-axis, it can translate in z-axis. Translational degrees of freedom. Molecules also have rotational degrees of freedom. It can rotate on this axis, it can rotate in this axis, it can also rotate like this through this axis, 3 axes. And molecules also has degrees of freedom for vibrations, elongation, vibration. So when you eliminate microwave radiations on molecules, it can induce rotational transitions. And if you monitor these rotational transitions, you have a rotational spectroscopy that is different. Molecules are always under motions. If you interrupt this molecular motion, what will happen? Something should happen, right? If you interrupt any moving object, what will happen? It will stop. What, sir? What question, sir? If you interrupt any moving object, it will stop. How it stops? It loses its momentum. It loses its kinetic energy. Similarly, when a moving molecule is allowed to stop, it will lose its momentum, energy, velocity, whatnot. And it is not one molecule. Lakhs of molecules, thousands of molecules, 10 power 10, 23 number of molecules. And if you arrest all their movement, so that results in heating. That is the simple basis for microwave heating. We will see more on this. So this is another version of characteristic of electromagnetic radiation, gamma rays. You see that very high frequency radiations, and the energy is also very high. How much? Kilocalories per mole. And when you compare with the chemical bond energy, this is very high. Chemical bond energy is only 120, but gamma rays have a energy of 2.9 into 10 power 7 kilocalories. How many orders? 6-7 orders increase gamma rays energy. So that's why they can even ionize the elements. X-rays little less, 2 orders less. So when compared to the chemical bond energy, still 6 orders higher energy. But you look at the energy of microwaves. So energy of microwave is very less, 0.037 kilocalories or 37 calories mole per mole. And when you compare with the energy of this bond, who can name the bond type this here? Who can name the bond type present here that I am pointing in the screen? What is the bond you will call this?
Hydrogen bond.
Yes. Yes, please.
Hydrogen bond.
Hydrogen bonding. Yes, hydrogen bonding.
Hydrogen.
These bonds we call typical chemical bonding or covalent bonding, ionic bonding, whatever you call it. But this bonding, you call it as an hydrogen bonding. If hydrogen is held between the two electronegative atoms, so the bonding is said to be hydrogen atom. This bonding present between this hydrogen and this oxygen is represented in dotted line, not a straight line. So it means that the energy of this bond is very less. How much? About 5 kilocalories per. Whereas the energy of a microwave corresponding to this frequency is only 0.37 kilocalories or 37 kilocalories. So 37 kilocalories, so 3.8 kilocalories per mole. Comparable energy for corresponding to this frequency. Okay, so that's why when a microwave radiation is allowed to interact with the molecules, it can induce rotation on these molecules. Whether it is a microwave or radio wave or infrared or UV visible gamma rays for that matter, we all know that it has got two components, electric component and magnetic component. How they are present? They are present in a perpendicular motion. Okay, so they are perpendicular to each other. There is a 90 degree between the, in all phases, they are always a 90 degree. Okay, so sine wave for electric component, sine wave for the magnetic component. And the laser lights are, they are coherent radiations. They are coherent radiation. So wobbling is there in only one direction, unidirection, but they are not laser lights, normal light. They have electric component and magnetic component. And very specifically, these microwaves are the radiations which are held between the infrared and radio waves. And their frequency ranges from 1 millimeter to 1 meter, or you can also quantify in terms of other units, 30 gigahertz to 0.3 gigahertz or 0.3 gigahertz to 30 gigahertz or 300 megahertz to 30,000 megahertz. You can quantify any one. You can remember any one and it is possible to interchange. And we know that in the kitchen we use a particular microwave frequency, that is 2.45 gigahertz frequency or 2450 megahertz frequency wavelength as a source for generation of the heat. Okay, so that also corresponds to about 12.2 centimeter wavelength. So generally, when we expose some microwave radiations to any material, the material will get heated up. How it gets heated up and how you can control, that is the topic today. Whether all materials are susceptible for microwave radiations, it's a valid question. Depending on the type of the material, we have a conductor, insulator, or semiconductors. Okay, let us consider two extreme cases, metals and insulators. Metals, they are conductors. What will happen if you irradiate microwave to the metals? They have pool of electrons, collection of electrons, and they don't couple with the microwave, and they are not opaque also. They don't transmit, they reflect rather. So eventually metals, they do not get heated up on the microwave system. So Veerraj seems to come for early for the next class. One student joined now. Class is going to over almost. Metals, they do not couple with the microwave radiations. Eventually they don't get heated up. Rather, they reflect the microwave radiations and remain unheated. Whereas insulators, they don't have collection of electrons and they are transparent to the microwaves. And they are transparent to the microwaves. They don't observe. They don't scatter, either they don't observe. And then insulators also getting not heated. Whereas a special case of materials known as dielectrics, they are susceptible for microwave radiations. Dielectric materials are highly susceptible for microwave radiations. They can couple with the microwave radiations. It means they can observe the microwave radiations and they can place themselves to get heated up. So some of you may be wondering what's the difference between insulator and dielectric. Can anyone respond to this? Insulator and dielectric differences. Are you with me? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Dielectric is
Yes, sir.
Yeah, one of you please.
So insulator means current cannot pass through the material.
Which cannot pass through?
Electricity. Current.
Electricity cannot pass through the material. In dielectric,
Dielectric.
also
Sir,
dielectric also. Yeah, anybody else? Anybody else?
Sir, dielectric, it can sometimes act as a conductor according to the polarization.
So these dielectrics are susceptible for polarization. What is polarization? You make weak group and strong group fight each other, separate them. Separate anode and cathode or negative charge and positive charge. If you do something on these dielectric materials, all the positive charges can be accumulated in one direction, one layer, and all the negative charges or ions can be accumulated in one direction. That is not possible in insulators. For example, barium titanate is a good dielectric material. Insulator is maybe a wood. Both are non-conductors, but wood, it is not possible to separate the ions, or it's not possible to subject for charge separation or dielectric, but in barium titanate it is possible, or mica for that matter, is a good dielectric material. So it means dielectric as dielectric, two electric, negative and positive, they are held together in that absorptive dielectric material. When you polarize, it is possible to hold the charges. It can be a energy storage material. All solid state energy storage materials, capacitors, condensers are made not by using insulators, but by using dielectric materials. Barium titanate, mica, paraffin, all those things. And they are able to have a dipole moment. What is dipole moment? Dipole, we know, two poles. What do I mean by two poles? There is a positive pole and a negative pole in a same material. Water is a dipole. Water is a dipole. Ammonia molecule is a dipole. Whereas CO2 is not a direct dipole. But water is a dipole. It is having small negative charge on the oxygen and a small delta positive charges on the hydrogen. In any molecule or species having negative charges, positive charges together on it, it can develop, it can have a dipole moment. Sometimes it is permanent dipole moment, and you can measure it in terms of mu. And it is termed in dBi. I think it is dBi, D. Dipole moment is measured in terms of dBi units. And the higher the dipole moment, the molecule is able to separate the positive and the negative charges effectively. They are the dielectric materials. If not, they are insulators. So you take this dielectric material and illuminate with microwave radiation, and very much they are cooperative. Both become very good friends. They go to McDonald's, cook themselves and eat. Materials gets heated up. The substance gets heated up. And they are mostly ceramic in nature. They are mostly ceramic in nature. I have a range of material there which are susceptible for microwave radiation. Before we see that, let us see what happens to this dipole when it couples with when they couple with the microwave radiations. So this is a water molecule. So we know that in water molecule we have one oxygen, two hydrogen. So there is a difference in the electronegativity between these two atoms or between these two atoms. Oxygen is highly electronegative. It means so it wants to the oxygen wants to gather its friends, electrons, more friends. Hydrogen less electronegative, so weak fellow he gives up the electron. Oxygen strong fellow accepts the electron. Automatically there is a negative charge developed on the oxygen. He has given up. Okay, so he develops or he or she develops a little positive charge. And this momentum, this state is known as dipole. And this molecule is made up of water, and you call it as a water dipole. Water dipole. So it means that now I am sure you'll agree with me, water as a dipole. It means it is having a negative charge and a positive charge on it. Small negative, it is not complete negative charge, 1 minus 1 plus. No, there is a delta minus delta plus. Okay, dipole. And we know that this electromagnetic radiation having a electric component, and it is a sine wave, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. Okay, and these electric and magnetic components are influenced by the presence of the environment. Let's say electric component. So sine waves up. And this magnetic radiation, microwave radiation is allowed to interact with the substances, and the now substance is water. Water is having a dipole. It is having a positive charge, negative charge. And this electromagnetic radiation, it can have a sine wave positive and it can have a negative. Okay. So what will happen? There looks here signs or magnitude of the signs, positive signs, negative signs. Okay. We know that same charges will repel, opposite charges will align. The charges on the dipole of water molecule, depending on the interaction, either it can align with the this electric component of the microwave radiation or de-align. Or when it aligns with the negative charge, negative component, it will align. Then it has to change. It has to change. It has to change. So aligning and de-aligning is always occurring whenever the microwave radiation is allowed to interact. Allowed to interact. Okay. So when you disturb the movement of ions or molecules, moving ions, as I told in the beginning, it will lose its momentum, energy, velocity, etc. and loses it as heat. And this happens when electromagnetic radiation, for example, microwave radiation, is allowed to fall on it. Molecules are always motion. When you allow these microwave radiations, it either aligns and de-aligns. The moving object is allowed to be disrupted and results in the heating. And we call this as a dielectric heating. And this has resulted because of the interaction of the dielectric or dipolar interactions. So two poles, negative pole and a positive poles are there. So we call this as the dipole interactions with the microwaves. A moving object, because of the microwave radiations, coupling with the microwave radiation, aligning and de-aligning, results in the restriction in the oscillation of the molecules in the form of heating, and we are seeing the dielectric loss and results in the heating. This is the case with any molecule having dipole. It need not be only water. It can be ammonia or any other thing. Best example is water. What if water is not present in the microwave oven, whether other materials will get heated up or not? For example, is it possible to heat chalk, white chalk, which is made up of calcium carbonate, or any other ceramics, silicon carbide, carborundum, etc.? Yes, it is possible. If they are not insulated, if they are dielectric, if they are able to susceptible for charge separation, if they have a dipole moment, it is possible to align, de-align, align and de-align. Okay, so the restriction in the movement of these ions with the introduction of microwave radiations results in the dipolar coupling and results in the microwave heating. And here we call it as a dipolar interaction or dipolar rotations. Here it is ionic conduction. There is a complete charge separation between the calcium 2 plus and the carbonate here. Unlike here, partial charge separation. So it means there is the dipole moment is very high. Mu is very high. Mu is very high for carbonate compared to water molecules. Okay, so the take home point is whether it is a dipole or an ionic compound, when they couple with the microwave radiations, their momentum, their transportation, or their mobilities are restricted. They lose their velocity, whatnot, and results in the heating. This is the simplest coupling, simplest explanation for heating of the substances in process of microwave radiation. How the heating take place in electrically heated furnaces? I'm sure you will be able to tell. How electrically heated furnace makes the heating. This is how it happens. This is how it happens in the microwave heating. But in the case of electrically heated furnaces or stoves, etc., so there the electron is moving. And if you stop the moving of the collection of electrons, So then their mobility is also restricted and materials gets heated up, arresting up the mobility of the electrons in the metals results in the heating, dissipation, energy in the form of a heat dissipation. Here is done by the molecules aligning and de-aligning with the electric component. I think this cartoon will give you better information. Aligning and de-aligning with the electric component of electromagnetic radiation, microwaves here with that of the interacting medium or species, ions, etc. So it used to be like this, random orientation. But when the micro radiation is allowed to interact, either it should align or de-align. Otherwise, they were very free. They were very free. Now it is made to restrict, either align or de-align. This restriction results in the coupling of micro radiations, or during the coupling of micro radiation, this happens and results in the heating of the substances. It's not one molecule or one dipole, 10 power 23 in a given mole. If the given mole is very large, you can assume, you can think how many molecules or dipoles will be there, and each molecules are allowed to restrict their mobility, and each will contribute small heat, and it gets heated. The substance gets heated. I think I told you that this is a range of the material which are susceptible for micro radiations. You can quantify mediums susceptible to micro radiation, strongly susceptible to micro radiation, and there are materials they are weak or they are not susceptible for microwave loss, microwave radiations. For example, hexane or toluene, they don't have dipole moment. Whereas butanol, 2-propanol, ethylene glycol, DMF, dichloroethylene, ethane, etc., water, they all have dipole or they have a tangential loss. It's a ratio between the dielectric loss to that of the dielectric constant. Okay, so water is having a dielectric constant of 80, and it also has a dielectric loss, and the ratio is not 0, it is beyond non-zero. It is about 0.123. Okay, dielectric loss or tangent. Okay, tangent. Tan delta is equal to E double dash divided by E dash. So any substance having non-zero away from the zero will be susceptible for microwave. Higher this number, for example, ethylene glycol is highly susceptible. Very much I have used during my PhD. I have used this ethylene glycol to synthesize silver, cobalt, nickel nanoparticles. Alloys, extensively used. Liters of ethylene glycol I have used. In one batch, 5 liters of ethylene glycol I have used. 1 liter, 2 liter, 5 liters I have used it. In one go, I could prepare 550 milligram in the lab of nickel metal nanomaterials. Okay. So I think this cartoon will give you how the conventional heating is taking place. How the conventional heating is taking place. How you take a vessel, start heating is. You take a vessel, place it on a furnace or electrically heated substance or equipment or something like this. What would you call this? Have you seen this kind of heating system anywhere? Or you consider mother cooking at kitchen or yourself cooking at kitchen? How it is done? You take a vessel, place it on a stove, either electrically heated or gas heated, gasoline heated or LPG heated or CNG, whatever, anything. Okay. So the heat energy is supplied outside. Heat energy is supplied outside. Externally, heat is supplied externally. Then this heat energy dissipates inside. Depending on the content inside, it transfers the temperature, heat to the system, and finally, depending on the boiling temperature of the solvent or the material inside, it boils up. Maybe it may be a cooking, or it may be a cooking of chemical or anything else. So the take home point here in conventional heating, it is done usually by conventional heating or electrically heated furnaces or hot places. Heat comes from the outside. Heat comes from the outside, which is inherently associated with the inhomogeneous supply of the temperature. Maybe this oil bath will give to the maximum extent can provide homogeneity of the temperature. So it means, so in this case, the temperature here, what you will not be same as that here. Or the temperature at these edges will be larger, and the temperature inside the core of this substance or this vessel will be definitely much less. Compared to this, it will be less. Few degrees definitely less. So it means if you are expecting some reaction to take place in all places, it may not take place in all places simultaneously or at the same speed or same way. There may be a difference. It results in the different features. Okay. So we'll stop now and take up more in the next class. If anybody would like to make some comments, clarification, suggestions, you can do so. Thank you. Any comments, clarifications, suggestions, additions, even from previous classes? If not, thank you. Tough to follow? Though you have been using or we have been using, tough to follow, right? Looks tough.
No, sir, this unit is easy, sir.
This unit is very easy, very good. So we will complete with the next class this unit. I told this unit is very small. Statistically, I have given nine classes, but it's not going to be 9 classes. Next class we will finish it. So if there are no comments, clarifications, thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
sir.
And I notice some of you are keeping the Google Meet on because it records as long as even one person is kept on. So instead of one class, it drags to 1 hour. When I upload it, it takes a lot of data, and it is empty, black space. Only that person is there. Even I am not there at the end. So you please see that you end Google Meet, even if you are not listened to me, you don't. Please end it after the class. You understand what I'm telling you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Understand.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.